Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sherman School Gymnasium. So nice to see all the parents and kids here especially for a special night of recognition. So let's get started. This meeting held in the Sherman School Gymnasium is an open session of the Roselle Park Board of Education held under the Open Public Meetings Act of the State of New Jersey. Notice of this meeting was sent to the Star Ledger, the Union Leader, the Home News Tribune, the Borough Clerk, school offices, and district website. The board shall open this meeting in public session and immediately continue in public session. Usually we say we're going to adjourn, but I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm going to get you the awards. The board was starting, and we're going to start right now at 7 o'clock. And Madam Secretary, can you please call roll?
President Miller.
Here.
Vice President Harms. Mr. Bowman.
Here.
Mr. Cancino. Mr. Gurton. Ms. Powers? Here. Mr. Sekou?
Here.
Mr. Signorello?
Here.
Mr. Vita?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First off, I want to thank everyone for their flexibility in coming tonight as opposed to Tuesday. Tuesday would have been a little difficult, but we appreciate you showing up. And also, I just wanted to thank our Buildings and Grounds Supervisor, Mrs. Cinda Padovano, and the wonderful work that her crew did in getting our school cleared and ready for a delayed opening yesterday, and that was fantastic. And we are very, very blessed to have her on our staff, and she works very, very hard. And if you ever see Mrs. Padovano around, not the teacher, but I bet that's her mother, correct?
Mother-in-law.
Mother-in-law. Her mother, Mrs. Padovano's mother-in-law. You see her, say, hey, thanks so much. But she works very, very hard, and she has Roselle Park School District #1 in her mind. So we thank her and the crew for doing a great job. So now we're on to our first part of this meeting. It's called public participation, and that's for agenda items only. This piece of paper we have in our hands, and some of your parents and you guys might have in your hands, it's called an agenda, and there are items on there, they're numbered. So on this first public participation portion, if anyone would like to come and speak on any agenda item, it's because it's for agenda items only, please come forward, state your name, address, and what agenda item you'd like to speak on, and you'll have 3 minutes to make a comment. Well, that was easy. Seeing there's none, we'll close the first public participation portion of the evening tonight. And now we'll go on to committee reports. Does anyone have a committee report they'd like to speak on? Seeing there's none, we'll get right to the good part, and that's a principal's report. We'd like to ask Mrs. Glum to come forward. Mrs. Glum, good evening.
Good evening. I'm going to take this out and
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Superintendent Garrido, Mrs. Gershio, President Miller, Board of Education members, parents, students, and community members. So this evening, let me first share with you some of the previous month's activities at Sherman. We're always so busy, right, guys? All the time. There's always something exciting going on at Sherman School in their learning and just lots of fun activities. So let me just share with everyone some of the things that we've done. Just regarding our teachers, first I just want to talk a little bit about the writing training that they've been doing, and you guys know in your classrooms with Writing Workshop all the different units of studies you've been working on. And the teachers have been getting some great training from Teachers College, and that our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade had full day trainings, and then our K-2 teachers also did. And lots of great feedback from that. They're really learning a lot, doing a lot of collaboration, talking about what's working, how they'll tweak it for next year, things like that. So it's going great. We also discussed a new book that came out by an author who has been doing lots with reading and writing strategies, Jennifer Saravello. So I'm sure the boys and girls are getting those lessons in their classrooms too. So it's really exciting. This month we talked about kindness, and we did celebrate also Start with Hello Week, which the kids will probably have told you about. Each day on announcements, we had talked about how to include others and be kind instead of excluding others. So our announcements supported that in talking about it. We also talked about the teachers worked with the students on how to start conversations, and also just starting with hello, how you can go up to someone who looks like they're alone, and thinking about have you ever felt that way, and how you could make that person feel different and feel better by just going up and talking to them, even if it might not be something you would normally do, right? So we did that, and we had a really cool lunch one day. We did a mix-it-up lunch. All of the students were assigned to different tables, and they were able to meet different children in the school, and they had conversation starters on cards, and they all talked, and they really got into it. So it was really nice. Did you guys like doing that? They actually said, can we do this like once a month? Because it's like fun to sit with different people and talk to different students. And even when we came upstairs and it was an inside day, we talked about, tell us something new that you learned about a new friend that you met today. So we did that, and that was nice too. For Black History Month, while teachers focused on historians in the classroom, we also have our student leaders highlight these on announcements throughout the month. So our students are doing announcements from 5th grade. We started with student council just doing them, but now everyone gets to do them. So I think we're down to 2nd grade this week. We'll be doing 1st grade next week. So they really like doing that. Of course, it was our 100th day this month. February was our 100th day. The PTA had a great 100th day evening, sort of like a pre-celebration. When we had the snow day, it pushed our 100th day to Valentine's Day. So it was like, okay, let's just have one whole crazy day all together. Why not? Just put it all together. But we had our traditional Zero the Hero who came to visit all of our K-2 classrooms, and a really old grandma that showed up that said she was Mrs. Blum's grandma, and she was delivering pencils around the school, so for the 100th day. So we had a good time. The boys and girls also came by with their classes to some estimation stations. They had to guess how many were in there, different candies and things, and then whoever won the class got those to share. So that was fun. Let's see. We also had our 4th grade. Any 4th graders here? We had the 4-H Master Tree Stewards came, and they taught you about what? What did they teach you? Jocelyn? About trees and about tree life, right? And they talked about the size of trees. They had a lot of fun activities. They played a Jeopardy game about trees. And these people come every year and meet with our 4th graders, and it's really a good experience of some different people sharing information with our boys and girls. They're sponsored by the Rutgers Cooperative, and they've come for the 2 years that I've been here. I know they've come, and the kids really enjoy them. We also had Occupation Day, and 8 lucky students had won the raffle that the PTA had put out to shadow myself, our nurse, our secretary, and custodian. And the boys and girls that won were involved in checking lesson plans, taking blood pressure, cleaning the cafeteria, and filing and calling into classrooms. And I think their favorite part was calling into classrooms, because they're, excuse me, they had a great time. It was really kind of funny. The teachers were very surprised. They knew they were going to do it, but every time they heard a student calling in, they were like a little shocked. But we had a good time with that. They were excited. We took lots of pictures too. And then to end the month, it was Read Across America Week. So National Read Across America Day was that Thursday of the last week going into March. PTA members had planned a dress-up theme for each day. So we had Crazy Socks on Fox and Socks Day. We had Wacky Wednesday. We wore mismatched clothes. We had a day each of something different to wear. And then Sherman, we also added some fun reading events to the week, such as we took the Reader's Oath all together on the Monday. We all vowed to be readers the rest of our life, right? Lifelong readers, and talk about what we read. We also had the reading train, which our guest conductor was Superintendent Garrido came and did the all aboard, and we all went out in the hallways with our books and read for a little while, and then got off the reading train to go back to class. Each class was paired up to have buddy reading, so they did that. The older ones and younger ones read together, and that was really fun too. They enjoyed that. And just the interaction with the older and the younger students is very nice to see, and they look up to those boys and girls to help them. And then we also had, to commemorate, of course, it would have been Dr. Seuss's 113th birthday on that Thursday. We had guest readers from the school district, also from the community come in, police, firemen, lots of people that came in and volunteered their time. And it's so nice, I always say every year, for the boys and girls to hear different voices read to them, because they always hear their teachers, and maybe they hear their parents, but it's nice when someone else comes in and shares their love of reading or some type of book that they really enjoy with the boys and girls. So we had a great time doing that too. The PTA sponsored a Read Across America night, and again, had more guest readers with activities to go with it. People who like to draw, people who like to do yoga, people who like to do different things, and it went along with books. We even had some of our high school students come over and do some things with the students that night, and even Mayor Hokinson was the mayor of Shermanville that night. You could have a photo opportunity with him as we dressed him up looking a little bit silly, but he went along with it. It was okay. Now this evening, so again, March will be just as busy, it already is, so wait for upcoming events. You know, you get your calendar and you see all the things that are going on. But really important tonight, what we're going to do and what we'd like to do and why we're here with our boys and girls is to celebrate Youth Art Month this month. And tonight we're going to recognize these students, our Sherman School talented artists. They're going to get some awards. Each of them have had their artwork chosen to be exhibited in various New Jersey showcases. So we're going to show you their artwork tonight up on the screen as we call them up for their awards. Some of them are still on display places, so luckily Mrs. Russinello takes pictures of everything. So she took pictures and sent them to me, so when we call the students up and they receive their award, you'll also get to see a piece of their artwork that is in one of the shows. And they may have some, you have some of your artwork at home? Did some of you get to take these things home already? No, okay, so it's good that we have the pictures because we didn't have the real thing, and I thought, why come to an art showing if we don't have the artwork? That would be kind of silly, so I'm really, really happy that we got the pictures and you can see the work they did. Okay, the following students will be recognized by the Art Educators of New Jersey for their display at NJPAC, New Jersey Performing Arts Center. First up, Iris Alonso. Come on up. Is she here? Oh, she's not here. Okay, she's absent. She was coming. I had everybody coming, so we'll hold on to hers, but maybe you could show her artwork. Hold on. Really cute. Okay, next we have Danica Solomonton. Come on up, Danica. Another one of our artists. We're going to put up your picture. Just give me a shake. Get your award. Do you see the one that's up? Okay. Then we have Isabella Hess. Come on up. What a budding artist. Here's her picture with lines, different lines. Naima Toro, but she's not here. I don't see her here either. Naima is also in this group. We can at least show her artwork. Maybe the cold weather kept a few around. Beautiful picture. Next we have Ava Zdanowitz. Come on up also. Congratulations. Let's see your artwork. We have Noah Falcon, also for his NJPAC winter. Give me a shake. That's a tough shake. Awesome, Noah. Good job. And we have Julia Tribiano, also getting her award for the NJPAC winter exhibit. There you go. That looks just like you. So congratulations to these students for those awards, and we're going to have 3 students who are going to be recognized as finalists for the Youth Art Month Design Awards. They are Ying Chow. This is for Youth Art Month. Come on up, Ying. Congratulations, just coming off swim practice, right? Sophia Ortiz. The world needs art. Beautiful picture. And another one from Noah Falcon. Another one from Noah Falcon for Youth Art Month Design. There you go, the world needs art. And pictures of you, people in it, good job. These next students are going to be recognized for their art in the Union County Art Month Showcase. They are Isabel Larach. Congratulations, artist. Some happy snowmen and snow ladies, right? She's shy. Sophia Ortiz, again. This one's for Union County Art Month. Sophia. There you go. That's you, Sophia, right? All right. You look strong there. And you're thinking. And also for this award, Jocelyn Swiberius. Come on up. And congratulations, Joss. Good job. Let's see. And there's her picture. Really cool. I love that. And last but not least, but already she's not here tonight, also Iris, the following student, she's going to be recognized for the Art Educators of New Jersey annual calendar contest, and her artwork will be featured in the 2017 calendar for Iris Alonso. If we have her calendar one, it might be up there. That's her cat. I don't know if there's a second one that's going in the calendar. Maybe not. Or maybe it could be that one. I don't see a second one. It could actually be just that cat that's going in. Not sure, but great job. So congratulations to all of our artists, and thank you all for coming tonight to recognize them. And guys, keep up the good work, okay? We're going to take a picture. Thank you everyone for coming too. And thank you, Mrs. Gercio, for doing the honors.
Great job, everyone.
Congratulations, boys and girls. And parents, I'm sure you're very proud as we are as well. At this moment, we're going to take a brief 3-minute recess. So kids are going to get bundled up and head on out safely to home to do some homework. Please feel free. We're going to take a quick recess. Thank you. Congratulations, boys and girls. Jake, how are you? I'm sorry. Just stand on up. What do you say? Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, that should work. We do the hobby, rather than
I don't think I got the same one.
Someone who's a non-member.
Okay, we're going to start back up. And now we're on to the superintendent's report concerning the tentative budget presentation. Good evening, Mr. Garrido.
Good evening, Mr. Miller. I wanted to... Good evening, everyone. Yes. First of all, I wanted to echo Mr. Miller's words and congratulate Ms. Padovano and the custodian for doing a great job. It was a very difficult storm where it snowed, it rained, there was ice. So they worked many hours. So we were able to begin and come back to school the following day. We had a delayed opening, the buildings were clear, the sidewalks were salted, and they did a magnificent job. So congratulations to the entire crew. Just a couple of items that I wanted to go over with you. Our ELL students, English Language Learner students, they have been taking the access test. The access test determines the language proficiency that they're in. There are different levels, levels 1 to 4. Level 1 would be those students who are beginners. Level 4 will be those students that are exiting the program. So what the state does is they have a test called the access test, and it determines, in combination with other factors like PARCC test scores, teacher recommendation, classroom performance, to see if they're going to exit our ELL or ESL program or remain of the year. So we're in the middle of that right now. Our 2017 QUART testing is about to begin in April. It will take most of April and part of May as well. Mrs. Kostrom is working on a calendar to make sure that every parent is informed. The calendar will go out to the parents as well as is going to be posted in the website. We just found out about a week ago. The state has selected Roselle Park to participate in a pilot. This pilot is called the Achieve NJ Phase 2, which is to collect data. And actually, we're going to have a meeting with county office staff as well as the state representative. And this pilot is to collect data from the district. And it's going to be used as a new monitoring system for the QSAT monitoring, which is the 3-year monitoring system that every school district in the state has to go through, and it has to do with governance, instruction, personnel, and things such as that. So we are going to be participating in the pilot. I think it's going to be very beneficial for the district. We're going to get a scorecard actually from the state for participating, and it's going to be, again, something that's going to be very useful in how we use our data. So I'm looking forward to our first meeting, which will be April 24th. After that meeting, I certainly will have information that I can report to the board and to the public. With that said, this is the time for our budget presentation. As we had told the public last week, it was a week ago, that we were going to have a little bit more addition to our presentation. Mrs. Mrs. Gershel has done a wonderful job in adding some more, way more information for the audience to take a look at. So with no further ado, I will ask our finance chairperson, Mr. Bowman, to please begin the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Again, welcome, and thank you for attending this second open public budget workshop. So last board meeting, at our last budget workshop, we asked for public participation, and we also gave you a high-level overview of what the budget process is and what the budget was begin to start to form and look like. So tonight we're going to, as Mr. Dorito indicated, we're going to go a little more granular and give you more detail in terms of expenditures, the revenue. We're going to go into some Roselle Park state aid history. We're going to get information on the school tax levy history, the potential tax impact of this year's budget, and future planning. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to Ms. Gershio to give you all the details. Thank you.
And I would suggest to the board members, so you don't have a stiff neck tomorrow, maybe you want to have a seat so you can look forward. At our last meeting, we did go over the timeline, which once again begins our presentation this evening. Budget preparation begins by me and the administrative team way back in December and continues working through the finance committee until we end up this evening with our tentative budget to be presented to the public. There are some other important dates coming down the line, and we'll come back to them. As you notice, we updated tonight's March 16th. We originally were planning for March 14th. Meeting on the 21st has been canceled because this budget must be submitted to the county office by this Monday, 3 p.m. the latest. So depending on how things proceed this evening, we will need to do whatever is necessary to then present to the county office all of the documentation required by law. Remember that the county office does get about a month to review that particular information. Any changes that they determine are necessary will be then submitted to us in an appropriate amount of time so that we can come back to the public here in Roselle Park on April 24th for our official public hearing. And after the public hearing, the board then reviews one more time and meets the following board meeting on May 8th for our final adoption, May 9th adoption of the budget. Okay, last meeting, there were requests for information more detailed about expenditures. First slide is a very quick look at the makeup of our expenditures, and through this pie graph you can see immediately that the overwhelming portion of our budget on the expenditure side is made up of staff salaries and staff benefits. The next largest portion of our budget is for tuition that we pay to other schools outside of Roselle Park to send our Roselle Park students. That has the next largest piece of the pie. We as employers are also required to do a portion of Social Security, Medicare, PERS, so that's another large portion. Our 2 federal grants, IDEA and NCLB, make up approximately 2% of our budget. The debt service from previous referendum makes up another 2% of our budget. The cost of utilities for all of our buildings is about 1.9% of the budget. Other large portions are our contract and maintenance services, our future project for partial roof replacement at the high school, our lease purchases, transportation, insurance, legal costs, rent, and all other miscellaneous. For more detail on the next slide, you will see 4 years with a listing of similar items. You will see that the items that have changed the most over the 4 years, once again, are those large portions of the pie, the salaries of our staff. Benefits have remained somewhat stable thanks to the renegotiation in a recent contract to a cheaper health benefit program, and also due to the contribution that is now made by all staff. Most of the other items are relatively the same over the course of the 4 years. You can see, as requested, a breakdown of tuition that we pay for special ed students that go out of district, and then the tuition that we pay for students that are regular education that go to the Union County vocational technical schools. Utilities, phone and internet, other special ed costs are listed. You also see within the list the breakdown of the various lease purchases. Lease purchases are what enabled us to do the one-to-one initiative last year at the high school. The previous year, it allowed us to do the one-to-one initiative at the middle school. Previous years, it also helped us to purchase new textbook series and other types of equipment new buses, etc. Large purchases of that category. Legal costs, unfortunately, have increased for a variety of reasons. We have, as we explained at our last meeting, a legal settlement for previous rent owed that is now new line item here in this. Next year's payment will be $200,000. Another new item, which is a one-time item, is the partial roof replacement project, which right now has been advertised, and we are expecting to receive bids by the end of the month, with the hope that that project can be completed this summer at the middle school. Next slide. Next slide just reiterates the new budget, mentioning a few of the items that have increased. Of course, salaries because of our collective bargaining agreements. We have our negotiated change in health plan. Okay, I'll wait for Jake.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing, it's just a different view. Yeah, it's the same. This and that, it's the same.
How could I read this? Who can read this?
You got it. Representative.
We'll give you a larger copy, Jen. That's it. Okay. We'll give you a copy.
That's how you read it. Now, why do you guys do that and I do it more?
You may keep that, Jake. And we'll make sure in the future you get a large copy, always. So the screen we're now looking at, again, reiterates the expenditures for the year. There's been some increases in the cost of tuition. More students are being sent out of district than ever before. We also have some increase in related special services, students with special needs, occupational therapy, physical therapy, aid for students who are visually impaired, aid for students who are hearing impaired. Those costs have increased in the last several years. We do have plans to add one new lease purchase for a cost of $100,000. With that particular lease purchase, we're going to be able to buy $400,000 worth of textbooks, iPads, laptops, other equipment, furniture for our various buildings. The other cost, again, that I mentioned before that has gone up is our legal costs. A variety of reasons have caused that to get larger. Next slide concentrates on the opposite side, the revenue side, the matching revenues. The local tax levy next year, under this budget proposed this evening, will increase to $21,537,847, which does meet the 2% cap allowed under law. That figure is arrived at by looking at last year's tax levy, $21,055,914. The state gave us a small enrollment adjustment of $59,622. The The state then adds those two figures together, increases it by 2%, and that's where we arrive at that maximum tax levy. Other revenues are tuition that we take in from other school districts who send their students to Roselle Park's special ed programs, including the parents who send their children to our preschool program. The town, for a number of years, has been requesting that we run their after-school program at the Anthony Signorelli Youth Center. And in order to do that, they provide us with a revenue of $72,000, which pays for the staff of those people that work that program September through June. We have some small miscellaneous revenues that come into the district, athletic gate receipts, when we rent out of our facilities, when we take in fines, etc. That will make up the miscellaneous. The next big block of revenues are our state aid categories: categorical transportation aid, extraordinary aid, special ed aid, equalization aid, security aid, Medicaid reimbursement, state aid, park readiness aid, and professional learning community aid. Those aids have stayed the same with one tiny exception: Medicaid reimbursement, which is based upon services provided by our special ed staff members that qualify for Medicaid reimbursement. So that's constantly changing, and that's why that figure has changed slightly. We do have an excess surplus from last year's budget that must be returned to the community in terms of tax relief, and that figure is the $525,110. In this budget, we are withdrawing $200,000 from our maintenance reserve. We're withdrawing $400,000 from our capital reserve, and those two revenues will cover the cost of the roof job at the middle school. All of that put together makes up what's known as the general fund of a school budget. Our grants are our special fund. Then we have our debt service, and all of those added together, those three funds make up our total budget. And we're proposing this evening a budget of $35,235, sorry, let me start again. $35 million, that would be nice, right, Mr. Bowman? $35,235,720. Next, you see a little graph indicating how state aid has changed over the years. The one yellow bar there, somewhat towards the center, is the highest amount of state aid Roselle Park ever received. That was back in the year 2009-2010, the last year of Governor Corzine's term of office. State aid was cut drastically the following year when Governor Christie came back, and has grown slightly over the remaining years of his two terms. And in the next slide, you will see that the state aid figure is getting closer to that amount in 2009-2010, but it's still shy of that figure by about $120,000. So even though state aid has remained stagnant, the other column, our budget column, has not remained stagnant. Of course, costs do go up over the years, and you see that our budget has grown over the course of all of those 15 years by $13.5 million, but state aid has only grown by $2.8 million. So unfortunately, brings us to the next slide, means the burden of that increase has fallen upon the tax levy. This chart here has 3 columns. The column on the left is the general fund tax levy created by the individual school year budget. In addition, we here in Roselle Park have a debt service from the referendum that was done about 14 years ago. And in that particular column, you see the payments that we have been making for that debt service. First payment was extra large because of an additional interest payment in the very beginning, once you get on schedule. From there, it grew slightly each year, with the exception of the year when we refinanced, when mortgage rates began to come down. So did the rates for bonds. So we did a refinance and we were able to save a little money. So in the year 2014-15, you see a slight decrease. This year again, 2017-18 proposed budget, that debt service is slightly less than the previous year and will continue to decrease the remaining 7 years. The last payment for this debt service will be in 2025. Add those two figures together, and that will give you what's known as the total school tax each of those years for Roselle Park. Then, of course, what most of us are concerned with, including myself who live here in Roselle Park, is how will that impact us in our taxes. The next slide. Using the net valuation taxable amount given to me by Ken Bloom, was able to determine the tax rate for our total school budget. Take notice that the net valuation taxable amount has decreased this year, and I have to say, every year that I've been doing this now for about the last 12 years, the taxable rate in Roselle Park keeps going down. The smaller the tax ratables are, the larger the portion to the homeowner. Hopefully with some of the proposed plans, building plans we have, maybe those things will change in the future. But for right now, it has gone down again. Here you can see a chart which indicates what the school tax, the total school tax, based upon the assessed value of your home. The average home in Roselle Park, according to Mr. Bloom, right now is $253,000. So if you look at the chart, you'll see that this particular proposed budget would increase that homeowner $132.69 for that particular school year. So if you know what your assessed value is and find the closest number in that chart to it, you'll have an idea of what your increase is. Mr. Garrido? Mr. Garrido would now like to talk a little bit to the audience about some of the projects we have planned recently and some that we're planning for in the near future.
Thank you, Mrs. Gershel. First of all, I want to thank Mrs. Gershel, Mr. Goldman, the Finance Committee. It's very difficult to come up with a budget that, first of all, is fiscally responsible, and also that is sufficient for the school district. My role as the school superintendent is to provide educational leadership to our students, and that's what I intend to do every year when we develop a budget. Budget begins back in November, December. It's not an easy task. We gather with the administrators, we look at a strategic plan, we look at our goals to see where we are. And it's been very simple to look at our goals and say, we want to provide our students with 21st century learning skills, because that's what they're going to need to be successful in the future. So technology is something that is very important. It's critical to the learning. Obviously, our curriculum is very important and critical to the learning. And we want to make sure that the facilities are well kept and the infrastructure is there to support the curriculum that we have in place. So let's begin with technology. 2 years ago, we began our initiatives for the one-to-one in the middle school. We wanted to make sure we gave our students the technological tools they needed to have individualized and blended learning instruction, because they're going to need that. They're going to need to know how to research. They're going to need to be able to work together to come up with inquiries and come up with solutions to problems. So we felt that the one-to-one initiative was very important and critical for our students. Last year, we moved it up to the high school. We're very proud to say that we are one of the few school districts that we have a one-to-one initiative in grades 6 to 12. If you go back to the slides that Mrs. Gershel showed, the state aid has maintained completely flat all the way since 2010, 2011, or 2009, after 2009, 2010 school year. We have a 2% cap, where we have not gone past that. We haven't gone to the voters to ask for more funding. Yet, we have been able to maintain and been able to have afford the opportunities for our students to have the technology they need. What is our plan from this point on? Well, we want to add interactive technology devices. Why? Because that's what students need to be able to learn better. When I talk about interactive devices, I'm talking about smart boards, where students can manipulate the elements of the board, drag, come up with their own solutions, go out to the board, and in collaboration with the teacher, be able to come up with answers that they wouldn't with just a textbook. We're exploring new STEAM or STEM labs, and as you know, STEAM means science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And what are STEAM labs, or what are STEM labs? It helps accommodate visual and tactile learners. Okay, it inspires integrative learning in science, math, engineering, and technology. So the classroom is filled with different materials where students are grouped and they come up with their own solutions to problems. And some students may be working on a math project. Some may be working on a technology project. Some may choose to look at engineering projects, like robotics and things like that. That is the new wave of education, and we want to make sure that we provide those students before they head out to college or to life with those tools. We want to explore online curriculum and internet-based curriculum. As a matter of fact, we're looking at a new generation science curriculum that is completely online. For two reasons. Number one is inquiry-based instruction. Again, students are given a problem, a science experiment, and they are to create different articles, different things, items, that will help them solve that problem of that project. And number two, we'll be saving money. when you go out and you purchase a textbook series, probably going to cost us about $130,000, $140,000. These online and internet-based curriculum, which is more effective than the textbook, probably going to cost us maybe $40,000. So we're being responsible, again fiscally, now that we have the technology in place, yet we're providing students with 21st century learning. And as Ms. Gershel said before, a lease purchase, we want to add laptops, iPads for the elementary level. Because we understand that, again, when students use technology and it's infused into their curriculum, they have a better opportunity to learn. Ms. Gershel, the next slide. Now, we've come a long way in terms of our curriculum. First of all, if we go back all the way to the bottom, our balanced literacy resources. 4 years ago, we embarked in a balanced literacy approach for students. We use a readers workshop, writers workshop, teachers have been trained, professional development has been online. As a matter of fact, I participated in walkthroughs with our elementary principals this Monday to see how these programs were working. We have seen incredible improvement in our writing scores in the past 3 years. And we're going to see even more improvement in the next coming years. Number one, our kindergarten classes, which are full day now, okay, will be third graders in this coming year. We're going to see the benefit of that. When I went through the walkthroughs and I went to one of the kindergarten classes, our kindergarten students are writing way more than they were writing last year at this point of the year. So if we go down, we want to add more resources, level readers, novels that support our readers workshop and our balanced literacy. We are investing in a new math curriculum, as we know. You know, math scores were a little bit below where we wanted to be. Envision 2.0 is the curriculum that we are investing in for K through 5. We already adopted a new program in the middle school. So now we're looking at K through 5 to, again, support student learning. Staff development is key, is integral to student learning. If we do not train our teachers properly on these programs, we will never be successful. We have been adding more and more professional development in the last 2 years than I think we ever had before. Embedded workshops, turnkey workshops with our own staff. We are bringing consultants in that have been working with our teachers in small groups to make sure that we develop that. And then, of course, we have new generation science standards that began this year. Okay? We need to add more resources to make sure that we meet those standards. Okay, so that is where our funding is going to go this year to make sure, again, we provide our students with 21st century learning. And of course, we need to look at our facilities. Ms. Gershel, if we can go to the next slide. We need to look at our facilities to make sure that they're equipped. If we have these programs in place, if we have this great curriculum, if we have these great technology, if it's not supported properly, we would not be able to maximize what we are trying to do. We want to refurbish the high school library. As a matter of fact, this is a student-driven project. The architectural design classes, okay, got together, as a matter of fact, during the summer last year and came up with all these wonderful ideas and sketches of what they would like to see our media center look like. It's going to be more of a makerspace. Makerspace is, we talk about STEM or STEAM labs, something similar to that, with 3D printers, with different research areas where students can go anytime during the day and do the research that they need. Now, what we have is a library that's antiquated and outdated. As we know, print, yes, is very important, but we know that we need to move into a little bit more in terms of technology. New classroom furniture. I've walked to some of the schools. You know, these buildings are over 100 years old. The furniture, some of it is over 100 years old. We need to provide our students with better furniture, make sure they're equipped for the technology that we're using now. So slowly, Ms. Gershaw and I, we meet, we look at our lease purchase, and we make sure that we go around and evaluate where we need. And slowly, we have been increasing or changing our furniture to make sure that they meet those 21st century standards of learning, for learning. New generator. Actually, we just purchased one for a building, one of the buildings, I believe, and actually it was very useful. We lost partial power at Aldine just about a week ago. We just bought a generator. Guess what? We had power in most of the room because of the generator. So these are things that are not only we want to have, they're a necessity to make sure that if power goes out, which it does at times, that we can still provide students with electricity and power and so forth for learning. Partial replacement of middle school roof, Ms. Gershaw already went over it. Of course, we're going to use the capital reserve there, but we need it. If you go into the middle school right now, you're probably going to see a section of it leaking because of the snow that's melting. Every time it rains, you see somewhere in the building. And that, of course, not only is an unsafe situation, but it also can create a health issue. We need that roof up in that middle school. The lockers, the high school lockers and the middle school lockers, I've actually been down there in horrible shape. You know, we want to make sure our students feel good about going into classrooms, going into the locker room, to the gymnasiums, and you know, they're old, they're decrepit, and they need to be refurbished. And that is part of our funding as well, will go to refurbishing that. Okay, in closing, I just want to again thank the Finance Committee, Mrs. Gershaw, the board, for always supporting and promoting our students and their needs and their instruction. We need to continue to in a creative way, and we've been trying to move into 21st century learning, as I said before, and to make sure that our students receive the best education possible. We are doing a very responsible job here. Okay, our taxes have not gone up very much, as Ms. Gershaw just looked at, our tax levy. Our state aid, which we depend on so heavily, has stayed flat. And we need to educate our students to the best of our ability. And we will continue to do that. We'll continue to try as we plan for the future, and hopefully the state formula will change, that can provide a little bit more for us, that we can use it for some more programs. But we will continue to work hard to make sure we provide the best education possible. That is the driving force. So thank you, board. Thank you for the public for coming to our presentation. And I think now, if you have any questions, we're open to those questions. Please.
Jacob McGillis, 612 Sheridan Avenue, Roselle Park. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, viewing audience, members of the board, Mr. Miller, good evening.
Good evening.
We're going unlimited time on spending. We have three residents present for a $35 million budget. There are no line items. And where was the money for the settlement coming from? Is that coming out of surplus?
Ms. Gershaw?
The settlement was something that we knew was coming, so it was worked into the budget as its own separate line item this year. You have to remember that the suit was filed back in 2014, so we've been working on this for several years, and we were prepared to handle whatever the courts decided.
There was no line numbers for the items.
Yes, Jake,
Yes,
Mr. Mangier,
Mrs. Garcia.
if you turn to this page,
I have
expenditures.
I have the copy that was for the residents, the fine print.
He gave you the larger copy. Now you have two larger copies.
That's no line number.
Rent, legal settlement, $200,000. It's listed right there.
I will hold that in abeyance.
Did you find it on the chart?
I have the small print.
And the large print that Mr. Bowman gave you, where did that go to?
Of course, you're a taxpayer as well as I am, all of you. She doesn't live in the Roselle Park.
We won't hold that against her.
For the residents, it's the fine print. And for the Board of Ed members, it's the big print. And I can't find it on this here because it's not page listed. That's right, Mrs. Garcia.
Well, I want to help you, Jake, because you're having some difficulty. Question you asked is right here. Rent, legal settlement, $200,000, first time in next year's budget.
It's not in the budget? It's not at a surplus?
No, again, we were prepared for this, so we worked it into the budget as its own line item.
That you were putting money away each year?
It is every year we develop a new budget. It is a line item in this year's proposed 17-18 budget as part of the general fund expenditures. It did not come out of reserves.
The pie is very, very dark, black.
I will note that, Jake, and in the future, if we use a pie, I'll make sure we use brighter colors.
I noticed on all of them, it's the black, but I noticed on yours, you have an orange color.
It's color on the screen as well.
Look at yours, it's an orange color.
That is correct. So noted, Jake.
Excuse me?
So noted, I will make sure you have a color copy as well as a large copy next year.
You have a copy and it's an orange.
Yes,
It's not black.
correct. It's colored copy, yes. Which is very expensive. So that's why there's one copy.
Mrs. Gershio, you folks, you're spending, because you make up the budget, you're spending $35 million. And for having a 5-hour course in color.
We will note this, and next year we'll make sure you get a color copy.
And my suggestion to you folks, or whoever's making up the budget, take an additional 20% off other expenses. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
He's not going to say anything.
Hi, Matthew Longman, 245 McGee Avenue. Thank you, Mrs. Curcio, Mr. Bowman, for presenting us with these numbers. I can tell it's a lot of work. I'm also a little bit overwhelmed by the data that we're presented with because I know that the budget is a really important part of what we want to do as a town, and it's hard to measure the quality of a budget. You can't just look at how much we raise or how much we spend. So I guess I would just ask, how do we know that this is a good budget? Are there any kinds of numbers we can measure the return of our investment against? Are there any ways we can compare this budget with that of towns that are similar to ours? How do we know that this is a good job and that we can't do a better job?
Ms. Grisham?
It's a very tough question to answer. Mr. Miller, if you have any ideas?
I'm sorry, Mr. Lagay, are you talking about collecting data and see if we can, I don't know, how students are learning instructionally? Is that something like a possibility?
So that's one idea I have, is measuring outcomes compared to budget, right? What are we getting out of our $35 million? $35 million gets us top-rated students, then it's $35 million well spent. But if it's not producing the outcomes we want, then we would want to know that.
Yeah, actually, I believe in a month or so, they said in the spring, we're going to get a school performance report, and that's, districts know how they're doing in terms of graduation rate, programs, things such as that. And there's also a comparison between districts in terms of scores, similar districts in terms of their funding, and so forth, socioeconomics. So hopefully we'll shed some light, maybe, once we get that report. But I don't know what more, we can provide other than some, comparison with other districts in terms of our performance report.
Okay. What about the actual expenditures and revenues? Can we compare those against similar towns to ours in terms of population?
Yeah, actually, that's a very good, budgets are public. You can go into a similar district as ours in terms of the size of the budget, $35 million schools, and, compare. I'm sure all districts have to do a presentation the same as ours, and it will be on their website because that's one of the requirements. So
it would have to be a similar district that has the same demographic in terms of other ratables as well.
That's true.
Not only just the household property values, not only socioeconomic issues or status, but also just it would have to be.
It's not going to be a simple case. There's so many factors.
Very, very tough.
Yeah, so many factors, and I think the ratables is definitely, we can take another district that has a $35 million budget, but the ratables are very high. So it's apples and oranges, I think.
Right, if it were easy to be done already, that's
and we can also take, school districts that don't perform as much, but get $300 million in state aid as well.
Right. If we found similar communities and they had different budgets, then we might be able to know what we could target in our budget that could, increase efficiency.
But to your point, I think it always can be better. It's just trying to find creative ways and trying to grow with every year that we work on this budget. Looking at everything line by line and really taking into account what's needed in the school district and what's really not. And as you see in the budget, the greatest portion of the expense comes from teachers and teacher salaries. Right?
Yes, well, we clearly need teachers, and their salaries are obviously going to go up. There are certain things that we can't control the growth of, and you look down the lines, none of this looks like obviously wasteful, right? And so you have to be creative about finding efficiencies. And also a comment, I really was unaware as a citizen and a taxpayer how how much our school budget depends on state aid. The 2009 figure, that's what, 36% of the total budget, and in 2017-18 it's down to under 30%. So it's not really sustainable for expenses to continue to go up, the levy to be capped, and for revenue to be flat.
But Mr. Lange, for your information, all school districts are required to place their, what's known as their advertised budget on their website. So perhaps since you are so curious about this, that maybe you want to look at some other districts that you think might be similar to Roselle Park to compare.
Okay.
And you'll see that in April when school districts are required to do their public hearings.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Longan.
Sort of as that. Jeff Regan, 231 Sherman Avenue. Question: I just spent $7,000 on a new roof in my house. I see the partial replacement is $600,000. What is your estimated total replacement? What is this project going to cost? How many years is it going to take?
Let me explain why it's called a partial replacement, Mr. Reagan. If you're not aware of it, but the middle school was originally the old high school, and that's the center portion of the building. 12 years ago, 2 additions were put on the middle school building. An addition, if you're looking at the front of the middle school, an addition on the left side and an addition on the right side. Those additions, the roofs are relatively new and in excellent shape. So when I say partial replacement, I mean the center, the old building, that roof is extremely old and is in dire need of repair. So that's why we're saying partial, because it's no longer the entire building.
So that is really the only roof that needs repair?
Yes, the old roof on the center portion of the middle school.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Regan.
Does that go out to bid for the roof?
I'm sorry?
Does that go out to bid for the roof?
Yes, there was an advertisement for bids placed in the Star Ledger and the Home News Tribune last week. The closing date for those bids, I believe, is March 31st. We'll have our bid opening at that point in time. Those bids will be reviewed by legal counsel and the board, and a decision will be made from there whether to proceed or not.
Okay, so it might not cost $600,000. It might be less than that, correct?
We would just love that to happen, yes. But let's keep our fingers crossed.
Okay, I do have a couple of questions. One, could you just, when it comes to the phone and the internet, $96,700, could you just kind of explain to me how the system works in the school that would make it so much money?
Well, you have to remember, first of all, that we have 8 buildings, 5 school buildings. We have the Academy building, the Anthony Signorello Youth Center building. We also have the Early Childhood Center building, and then we have the board office building. All of those buildings have telephones. I'm not sure if you've been in classrooms these days, but in today's age, there are classrooms and telephones in every classroom. So the phone system is extremely elaborate and very costly. And in addition to that, we do have internet, Wi-Fi access in all of our buildings, which is another separate bill. So that particular part of the chart is a combination of those 2 bills.
Okay. Does that also go out to bid?
We belong to ACES, which is a cooperative purchasing for telecommunications. We also do part of ACES for our electric and gas. And many school districts are part of this ACES program. So we go out as a huge group to bid for services. And therefore, because we're such a large conglomerate of school districts throughout the state of New Jersey, we're able to get better prices that way.
So 96,000 is actually a good deal.
Hard to believe, but yes.
Okay. I have another question for the students who go out of town that we pay for. Obviously, it is special needs students, VOTEC students. What are some of these other students? What schools do they attend? And why?
Special ed students attend a number of placements throughout the state of New Jersey. And not only do we pay for their tuition, but also transportation to those locations. Why? It's required by law, but I'll let Mr. Garrido explain that a little bit more.
What drives that is that some students may be severely disabled, that we don't have a program solely in the district that we can provide education, so we need to send them out. Some of these programs, they're equipped with the proper systems and the proper rooms and the proper education for those students, and we cannot provide for some of these severely disabled students here, and we may have several students that can go to other district schools that can provide those services for them that we cannot here. So, that's one of the things. For example, a couple of years ago, most of our students with autism was sent out because we didn't have a program here. Over the 2 years, we did start a program, so now we are able to maintain or keep or bring back some of the students that we have cut back. But, again, it depends on the disability of the students.
Okay, are there students without disabilities who are sent out of the school district besides the VOTEC students?
No, there are no general education students, no. Unless there's, maybe an emotional disability or something to that effect. But and the magnet students as well.
Okay.
Students accepted to the program.
My other question is extraordinary aid. Could you just explain to me what that is?
Extraordinary aid, they use that term when you might have an aid needed for perhaps 1 or 2 students. For example, if you had a deaf student and the district most likely would have 0, and if not, you have 1. So since you would have to provide services to that deaf student, even though it's only 1 student. So it's extraordinary in the fact that you're providing these costly services for just 1 student. Or perhaps if you had a blind student, you'd have to provide Braille translation and services for that student. Whereas speech services, we provide speech services to a number of Roselle Park students, so that doesn't fall in the extraordinary service category, it falls in the related service category. Or another example that comes to mind that we had recently, you might have a medically fragile student who's required to have a one-on-one nurse who's there with that child in his or her classroom all day long because of their medical condition. So it's a service for 1 child that would fit the extraordinary service category.
Okay. And I just wanted to make one other comment. We were talking about the new math program. that is up and coming. And when I attended the curriculum meeting, the gentleman there said that there was actually a teacher who, and this has been passed on to other teachers, where when they do the daily journal, what they're actually doing is that they're giving them a fraction, a math problem, which is difficult for students. And then so by the time of year comes where they're doing these problems in math, we're taking a test that they really understand. And by the time they get there, they really, really get it. So I think that's marvelous that we have teachers who actually make that extra step and do that for our students. I just want to say, I just think that's absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Powers.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Safety.
Overall, I would say that I've spoken at this meeting before to the superintendent about the out-of-district tuition. And the superintendent, I'm happy to hear that there are 2 autistic classes that the superintendent and staff has set up. Ultimately, I would like to see more of those things addressed here. I think all of us would like to see that. We'd like to see less money leaving Roosevelt Park and leaving the budget that we're paying for, and more of our students are here getting service in our community. So moving forward, whether it's the strategic plan or not, I think this should be a focal point moving forward for our district.
Thank you, Mr. Sekou. Anyone else?
And before we cast a vote, I just want to make a statement real quick. So in the last 13 years, the school budget has nearly doubled. That means taxes have nearly doubled. We cannot continue this way. As a few people have said tonight, it is not sustainable. We are a 1.2 square mile town. We cannot continue to demand that our town's hardworking people, families, and seniors pay $104, $132, or $157 every year. Furthermore, while we may have certain individuals in this town who are independently wealthy, the vast majority of people I've met in Roosevelt Park are people who get up every day to work longer and longer hours to be able to pay for things like ever-increasing property taxes. It's unfortunate that we have gotten to this point. We are nearing a situation where the average property tax bill is over $9,000. So for all those things that I just mentioned, tonight I cannot vote on, well, I am going to vote on this budget, but at this point I have to vote no. So I'd just like to make that statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And we'll close the discussion portion of the budget workshop, and we're going to stick with the agenda, and we're going to go to policy, where I'd like someone to make a motion to approve agenda items 1 through 5. These agenda items 1 through 5 are all district policy second readings. The first one is 4211, the second is 5111, the third is 5113, the fourth is 5114, and the fifth is 5131. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Mr. Signorelli, second? Second. Mr. Vita, are there any questions or comments? Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Vice President Harms, Mr. Bowman,
Yes.
Mr. Cancino, Mr. Gerton, Ms. Powers, Mr. Sekou,
Yes.
Mr. Signorelli,
Yes.
Mr. Vita,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes.
On roll call, motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And now we're on to personnel, where I'd like someone to make a motion to approve agenda item number 6, additional sections. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Vita, second?
Second.
Mr. Signorella, second. And any questions or comments? Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Vice President Harms, Mr. Bowman,
Yes.
Mr. Cancino, Mr. Gerton, Ms. Powers, Mr. Sekou,
Yes.
Mr. Signorelli,
Yes.
Mr. Vita,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes.
On roll call, motion carries.
Thank you. And now we're on to education, where I'd like someone to make a motion to approve agenda items 7 through 10. 7 being education programs, 8 being educational trip requests, 9 being workshop attendance requests, and 10 being harassment, intimidation, bullying incidents. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Mr. Signorella, second? I'll second. Mr. Vita, second. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Those items are passed. And now we're on to business, where I'd like someone to make a motion to approve agenda items 11 through 15. 11 being monthly certification, 12 being approval of bills, 13 being use of buildings and grounds, and 14 being grant application, and 15 being donation. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Signorella, second?
I will second.
Mr. Vita, second. Are there any questions or comments? I'd like to make an addendum to agenda item 13 for E and F. The Roselle Park Youth Baseball and Softball League practices and games, and the Roselle Park Soccer Club practices and games. And the person who submitted these forms, there was a change in the times from the original ones as it relates to Saturday. And I was told that Mr. Foy sent back the form with certain adjustments on the Saturday start times for soccer and baseball. And I just want to make those dates aware. And that form, you should have that form already, but the old times were stated here. And I just want to make this change. And it's for just Saturdays, that start times are instead of 9 a.m., and I have them right here for Mrs. Garcia to write down to adjust, but it's March 11th, it'll be a 1 o'clock start, March 18th, a 2 o'clock start, 25th, a 12 o'clock start, and April 1st, 2 o'clock start, and these are for both fields, Colfax and Webster, and April 8th, a 1 o'clock start, April 15th, a 2 o'clock start, April 22nd, a 1 o'clock start, April 29th, a 1 o'clock start, and May 13th, a 12 o'clock start. And then last but not least, May 20th and 27th would be a 2 p.m. start. That's in order for the varsity baseball and the softball high school sports to practice, and they have games there as well. Just want to reflect that for the record. Are there any questions or comments? Others? I will be abstaining from 13A, D, and F. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Those items are passed. And now we're on to new business. Does anyone have new business? Mr. Vito?
Just real quickly, a parent made note of the start times for the schools during the delayed openings, and just made an observation that it was a little tough for parents of kids in all of the schools, in all of the grades, to get to the start times. She suggested during delayed opening to allow students to get to the schools. So just wanted to make that aware, to make the board aware of that.
And that was primarily for middle and elementary, correct? Because I think they're identical times.
Yeah, they are, and thank you very much, Mr. Vito. That's something that we will be looking at for future building opening. Thank you.
Seeing there's no one else, we'll now go to the second public participation portion of the evening tonight. If you have anything you'd like to speak on, please come forward. State your name and address and what you'd like to speak on. You'll have 3 minutes for your comment. Seeing there's none, we'll close the second public participation portion of the evening tonight. And now we'll go on to agenda item 16, where I'd like someone to make a motion. I'll make a motion to vote on the tentative budget. Mr. Bowman, a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Vita. Are there any questions or comments? Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Vice President Harms, Mr. Bowman,
Yes.
Mr. Cancino, Mr. Gerton, Ms. Powers,
I'm sorry, this is tentative?
Yes.
Yes. No, well, this is a vote to approve the tentative budget so we can send it to the state.
Taking it to the
for review.
Okay,
It
yes.
gets adopted and you vote on that adoption, May, it's listed here.
Okay, that's fine, just as long as I
Sure.
understand. Yes.
Mr. Sekou?
No.
Mr. Signorello?
Yes.
Mr. Vita?
Yes.
President Miller?
Yes.
On roll call, motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And now, I'd like someone to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Mr. Vita, second?
Second.
Go. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned, and we'll see you April 4th at the high school auditorium, 7 p.m. for our next scheduled board meeting. Thank you and have a good evening. Thank you for coming out.